All right, well, here's what and you guys could tell stories, as you know, that's what we want you to do, but here's what I'd like to start. I want each one of you to look at the guy next to you, to your left, and we can come around this way then, and tell a story or say something about that person. So, Jim Hanifan, Dan, you'll talk. Dan, if you can see that far, you can talk about Hanifan. Jim Hanifan, talk about Jackie Smith.
All right, Brillo Head, as he was affectionately called, Brillo Head.
What was
He
it?
doesn't have that curly hair anymore, but
Jim, pick
yes.
up the microphone. Talk it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll just take it here.
It's good.
Here we go. Anyway, Brillo Head. That was his nickname way back in there, because he had this really curly, sinewy type hair. Now it's somewhat kind of disappeared, but he can still jump though, so I'm not going to challenge him on anything. Anyway, the thing about him is that he was the consummate professional. I remember the first year, the first training camp with the Big Red, and we're into about 2-3 weeks of practice up in Illinois, and all of a sudden, here comes the All-Pro tight end to me, and he goes, he said, I've been watching you, and I've been talking to some of the linemen and all that, and he says, would you do me a favor? I said, sure, what do you want? He goes, would you work with me? I said, work with you? I said, hey, what are you talking about? He said, no, I'm serious. I really need a lot of work. He says, I need to work, I got to learn how to block. Now this is a guy that's an all-pro. I said, for crying out loud, you're an all-pro tight end. You're Pro Bowl every year. I said, you don't need my ass to work with you. He goes, no, you're wrong. He said, I need you. That's the kind of guy he was. That's the kind of guy he was. And God bless him, I'll never forget that, the type of individual, how much he wanted to be part of the game, be the best in the game, and he was. He was that. No question about it. No question. So we all owe him a big.
Thank you, Jim.
I would like to say something else though, because he just got honored here, and I'm talking about the big guy, Ernie McMillan.
Well, wait a minute. We want to bring Ernie up here. Ernie, come on up and join the guys up here. Come on up here. There's a chair next to Jackie.
When he's walking up here, because it's going to take quite a while, I'll go ahead and finish the story while he's getting up here. And even though I'm long-winded, I think I should be able to finish. Well, here he comes. But here's the kind of guy Ernie was. 1973, our first year together. One day, it was a Monday afternoon after a bitter, 73, a bitter loss. And we're out there, and we're just kind of go out there, and we're loosening up and all of a sudden, and I've just got the lineman out there, and we're just kind of tossing the ball around. And I look over at Ernie, and we're lining up over on the left side, and lo and behold, I watch the young man, I go, he gets in a left-handed stance and goes down the field. Now, he played tight end at college. And so, yeah, he had great hands. Yeah, right, that's why he played tackle. Anyway. So don't believe a damn word about it, Eric, you know. Now, the thing about it, though, I'm watching this guy in left stance, and I said, you got to be kidding me. A natural left-hander, and they played him at right tackle when you're wanting to find that left-handed guy to play that left side. And it'd be a lot simpler. So here is a 4-time Pro Bowler. I take him aside that afternoon. I said, I got to talk to you about something. Now, I said, hey, you've had a great career already, 10 years in the league. I'm going to ask you something, if you would do this. I said, you know the young man I'm talking about, and he's a personal friend of yours now. You've been around him for a couple of years. I think his natural position should be right tackle. I said, if we move him to right tackle, I think he's going to become a dominant force in the game. But it means you, Ernie, you're going to have to move. You're going to move over to left tackle. I said, 4-time Pro Bowler, and you tell him this. And towards the end of his career, and he looked at me and he goes, I have no problem with that at all. I have no problem with that. And so the very next day, he became the starting left tackle. And we all owe him a big time, but that's the kind of guy he is. Never forget it.
Yeah, let Ernie respond. Ernie.
Respond? Well, when they came in '73, not only did I move to left tackle, and I got beat up ever since, I started having a lot of injuries. But the greatest thing they did was put a stretch program in, flexibility. Toward that 11th, 12th year, I was getting kind of like a board. I couldn't hardly touch my knees. And they brought in this guy named Stretch, and he worked with us. All of a sudden, I felt really great. The greatest thing ever happened was '73 in the stretch program. Also to move to left tackle. But I guess I get to talk about Jackie.
Ernie, what about the guy sitting next to you?
That's Jackie
Mr.
Smith.
Smith.
Inspirational.
Where did that come from?
Would fight every inch, every down, every play. Fire you up. Great to be a teammate. Just get out there and fight with him. Little Mel would take it off the top. Jackie would run over. Great touch. Great touch. Great offense.
Give the mic to Jackie. Mr. Smith, you have a microphone there?
No, I don't.
Thank you. Would you like to respond to something Ernie said?
No, to Ernie?
We don't talk.
Oh, well, Ernie, Ernie says, he just said, we don't talk. Well, the point, the reason he said that is because when I first came with the Cardinals, and Ernie and I would be riding back on the plane, and so we didn't talk much. Nobody talked. We didn't talk. Here I was as a redneck from Louisiana, and he was a guy from up here in Northwestern, and a man of the world and that sort of thing. And I was just trying to get some favor out of him, But what's the point of the deal is that for a lot of years that we didn't visit that much, but toward the end of our career, I started making a point to try and sit down by Ernie on the plane on the way back, and to this day I can still, and Jerry remembers me talking about this, that one of the fondest memories I have of football really was the conversations that I had with Ernie on the way back from all the away games we had. I learned a lot from Ernie. He's a great guy, and he's a friend that we don't see much of each other because Ernie just sort of stays out there somewhere else sometimes, and so we don't visit a lot. But he knows I love him, and I appreciate all the insight that he gave me to the game and to life in general. Really, it really was.
Jackie, how about a word of the guy sitting to your left? How about a word about the guy sitting to your left?
I don't know who he is. I don't know who. Oh, Roger.
No, you're supposed to talk about Roger.
You
Do
got
I
a mic
want to
over.
talk about him? About Roger?
Yeah,
Well, of course. Who doesn't want to talk about Roger? The thing that I remember about Roger whenever it comes back to me is that trying to work out with him or run a pass pattern on him. I don't remember one time that I ever beat Roger in practice when I was really trying. I would say, well, he's not really trying. I know it's just practice. It's just working out. So I'm gonna really try and beat his ass, and do this. And all of a sudden, he would just be cruising right along beside me, and without any effort. That made me mad. He could at least grunt or something, But he wouldn't do anything like that. He would just kind of smooth right into and that's the truth. I mean, I'm not kidding you. That was a frustration that every receiver had running against Roger. And then, anyway, we worked out a lot together and did some stuff. I think there's one place way up north somewhere, Roger, where we went North Missouri. You and I were working out on Hannibal and track. Yeah, we started running 440s, and Roger thought I was nuts, but he would. That's when I said this guy can really run because he was a track guy. So anyway, he deserves everything he gets. He was a hell of an athlete because I have yet to beat him on a pass pattern, which is no big deal, but no great stretch. But he is an unbelievable talent. and just happy to have been part of Roger's career here.
Jackie is very much prone to exaggerations. We went up to that football camp up in Hannibal, Missouri, and I thought I was in good shape. And Jackie comes up there and says, "Just run some 440s. We'll run a 440, and then we'll walk a little bit, and then we'll run another 440." And I was like a fast twitch muscle guy. You know, a 100-yard dash was a long ways for me. And I tried to keep up with him running a couple 440s, and it was just ridiculous. You know, he was half a lap ahead of me before we could get around. Anyway, guess I'm talk about Jimmy a little bit. I played against a lot of quarterbacks in college. Roger Staubach, obviously one of the best that I played against. Year after year, 2 games every year, but. There was nobody that could throw the ball more accurately, with more zip and on target than Jimmy. He was just a great quarterback, and does not get some of the respect that he deserves in the Pro Football Hall of Fame voting and just overall for his career, because we were never went to get very far in the playoffs. You know, we made the playoffs a few times, but lost out before ever making it to the Super Bowl. And that's kind of one of as a quarterback, the Super Bowl appearances is one of the big things if you're going to, get votes for the Hall of Fame. And, Jimmy's is better than a lot of guys in that Hall of Fame at quarterback position.
Hear, hear. Jim, you got a mic over there?
Could I add something? This guy, 1966, 6th-round draft choice or free agent.
Ernie, work the mic.
Talking the mic again?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'd make a hell of a podcaster.
Details are killing me. But I want y'all to think, this man played 17 years with the Cardinals. 18 total? 19 total? 19 years. And he had to fight for his job every year. And that kind of perseverance, belief in yourself, to amass the career he did, you just have to take your hat off to it. Every time I look at those years and think about what he accomplished, it was a hell of a thing. So.
I'd like to say a couple of words here regarding Jimmy Hart. And grant you, the offensive line, they have some great opportunities to protect him, and we did very, very well doing that. But I'll say this. He was so smart in the pocket. I mean, he didn't, running out of there with great foot speed and all this and that, like, say, Russell Wilson in Seattle or whoever like that, Kaepernick. What he would do, he was so subtle in his movement. He'd get back there, and he'd maybe take one step, 12 inches over here, and that would avoid a guy running by him. I'm not kidding you. It was amazing at times what he would do. But he's always looking down the field. And I remember early on, as a old tight end catching the football, I'm out there one day early in practice, before practice started, and I just kind of were messing around throwing the ball, and I'm down about 35, 40 yards from Jimmy, and he throws me a ball down there, and I catch that. And I went, my goodness, wait a second. My hand stung from that ball, and that's about 40 yards away. I went, my God, this guy's got some zip, man. I mean, zip on that ball. The thing that I'd like to state and agree with Roger regarding the Hall of Fame, NFL Hall of Fame, hey, the gentleman really belongs in there. There's no question about it. No question about it. But the problem is that the committee that makes these decisions, what they look at that quarterback position particularly, and they go, "Oh, how did he get to the Super Bowl?" I mean, that's the bottom line anymore. Did they get to the Super Bowl? And you're like, hey, well, how about the guy doing all the things he did for all those years? It's unbelievable. And We just got to keep on fighting to get him in there. All right.
All right, Jimmy, it's your turn.
Okay, Jim, thank you very much. I'm going to tell a quick story on Coach Hanifan, though. We're on the sidelines, and he's smoking a cigarette, and I'm
Really? He smoked?
and I'm pulling away from him like this, you know, and I'm trying to catch my breath, and he's sitting there smoking. He's, come here. I said, no, you can talk to me over there. So we're talking about what play we're going to run next, and Don Coryell comes up and throw it, and it's a short yardage situation, and the offensive line thinks they can run. It can be 3rd or 4th and 10, and they can make it. So, but Jim says, he just looks at me and goes, you know what to do. So I go to the huddle, and the lineman, led of course by Dan, said, we are going to run it, aren't we? Remember that? And of course, he wasn't kidding. Let me tell 2 quick things about Roger. First of all, a good friend of all of ours is Sonny Jurgensen, who is a Hall of Famer and Redskins, and he lives in Florida, not too far from us. But we talked about Roger many times, and Sonny tells this story about coming out of a quick out on either side, and he came up one side and he was going to throw to the right, but it was covered, and he thought about the defense, and the defense that was called, that he knew, that he recognized, said there's no way that Roger is on this man because everybody's rotating, and he came up and turned and threw it this side, knowing that Roger wouldn't be there. Roger was there. 7 points the other way. And there was a time in practice that as we prepare for a team, we're going to run this play or pass against a weaker opponent. And I was after 3 or 4 times running this play, I would throw it to the tight end or to the flanker, and our quarterback coach, Harry Gilmer, everybody called him Harvey, and but he comes up, he wouldn't make fun of me in front of everybody else, but he came over and he said, hey, partner, you realize that we're working on this guy over here. And I said, Harvey, who do you see over there? And he says, Roger. I said, I'm going to throw over here all week long and have him intercepted or knock it down and then get in the game and think, I'm not throwing it over there, even though it's a weaker guy. So that's the respect that I had for him. Just know that he was going to knock it down or intercept it, and I don't want that negative feeling. So, but another thing used to bother me. We used to play basketball in the off season. He never sweat. Boy, that used to bug me. Anybody who can't sweat, but that's just whatever. But here,
calm down, Jim. Calm down.
now here's one about Dan.
Sweating right now.
Here's one about Dan. We were, I don't even remember who we were playing. It might have been Cleveland in Busch Stadium, but I was running with the football. I don't know why. Didn't do that very well. But so I'm running down the field, and if you remember, there was a cutout at the pitcher's mound, and that was before they changed it. So there was a ridge there, and so I'm running with the football, and all of a sudden I hear this voice from behind saying, "Get down, get down!" And I tripped on the turf and fell ass over tea kettle, and there I am on the ground, and Dan looked up and he goes, "Okay, get back in the huddle." He said, "Are you all right?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so." "Well, get back in the huddle. Let's go. You got to take your lumps just like the rest of us." And it was him. He said, get down," and I guess I listened to him. But thank you all so much for coming out tonight and letting us talk about some old times. If you get a chance, ask Jackie Smith about pinching behind your bicep, your tricep there. Ask him. Tell him, hey, Jackie, pinch me like they do. Don't let him do it.
Hey, now, Jimmy, you got to tell a story about Dierdorf. You got to talk about the guy next to you.
I've got one.
I did.
I've got Ryan.
Where you been?
Oh, you want another one? Okay.
Ronnie, I got one on Dan. I got to tell it.
We shouldn't give Hanifan a microphone, you know what?
You guys want to hear it or not? Got that, Jacober? You got it? Okay, now.
Yeah, you got it.
But this is one that obviously never made any of the magazines, nothing, all time. But I'll tell you what, we were playing the Redskins at RFK. It's raining cats and dogs. I mean to tell you, before the game, they had the tarp on there, but that didn't even save it. They pulled the tarp off, and now we're playing. And Terry had a bad day that day. He lost about, I think, 8 fumbles that day. Even Joe Gibbs, God bless him, swore that day around the press box. And I said, I do not appreciate that swearing, Joe. Because I'd be doing it down the side. He'd always be on my case. This time he goes, that's not that funny, Jim. That's not that. I think it's pretty good. Now, with Dan, though, he gets involved out there in the scuffle for this loose ball, this fumble, Metcalf fumble. And he doesn't get it, but he's down in there in the mud and the water and all this and that. And he comes off the field. And when he comes off the field, we had lost the ball. We had lost the fumble. But he is as white as I've ever seen him. His face, he's just like, it's unbelievable. He's in like shock almost. And I said, what the hell's wrong with you? He goes, hey, listen, I never thought I'd ever tell you this. I thought I was dying. I was going to drown out there in that damn game. My face is in the water, in a puddle of mud and water, rain, and they're taking their sweet time getting off me, and I can't breathe, and I'm sucking water in there. And he goes, I damn near died. And I'll never forget it.
Is that a true story, Dan?
It's a true story.
Hi, everybody. If this was a Monday night game, this would be like Al and Frank turning to me at the 2-minute warning and saying, Dan, what do you think? I've never waited this long to speak in my entire life. And he's got, this is something new. This is, thanks for being here tonight. This is, if you think it's making you feel good, just imagine how it makes us feel. It's just nice to rekindle a lot of old memories and to be up here with my oldest friends. And when I say my oldest friends, all of a sudden I realized with a great deal of delight something that doesn't happen to me very often anymore. I'm the youngest guy on this stage. That just dawned on me about 2 or 3 minutes ago. It doesn't matter that I'm the youngest guy on this stage. What a bunch of old bastards I'm up here. I want to just mention one thing about Ernie McMillan, the new inductee into the Hall of Fame. Ernie, everybody's been talking about the fact how he graciously moved over to left tackle to allow me to escape left tackle and move over to right tackle, which was more my natural position. But it was Ernie's, lost in all this, forget all that crap about Ernie being left-handed. Right tackle was his natural position too. And he moved out of being a great teammate. But prior to that, when I was a rookie, Ernie McMillan taught me how to be a professional football player. We had a coach when I was a rookie, a guy named Bob Hallway, that wouldn't have won many popularity contests. He was a stern man and didn't really have much in the way of a sense of humor or any command of how to lead a bunch of guys. It was a 2-year catastrophe. But Bob Hallway used to love to get the whole team together to watch film. That way when he belittled you, he wasn't just doing it in front of the offense, he was doing it in front of the offense and the defense. So film sessions were torture. So
when you knew as a player, you have some built-in instincts, and one of them is when there's a bad play of yours coming. It's right around the corner, and you just start to slide down that chair a little bit, and you're trying to make yourself as invisible as you possibly can. So I've got one coming up in about 3 or 4 plays, and I'm already starting to get worried about it. Well, Ernie, it's Ernie's turn in the barrel, and Ernie, something went on. I don't even remember what it was. But all I know is Bob Hallway didn't really take him to task, and he moved on to the next play. He was moving on to the next play. And in front of the entire team, I hear Ernie's booming voice, and yes, he used to have a booming voice. Ernie saying, "Can I see that again?" And in front of the whole team, Ernie wanted that play shown again because he realized he'd done something wrong and he wanted to learn from it. He wanted to get better from it, and it didn't matter if all the rest of us had to participate in what had to be an uncomfortable situation. And I'm sitting there going, well, that's about the damnedest thing I've ever seen. And I'm serious, Ernie. That's what being a professional football player is all about. Every day, every opportunity was a chance for you to get better. And I was some snot-nosed rookie that paid attention.
Dan,
what was
Monday Night Football like? You were on Monday Night Football for a number of years. What was that environment like?
I won't let you guess how many because you're all over the place. What year did Ernie come in with the Cardinals?
1941.
I did Monday Night Football for 12 years. 12 years.
Right.
What was it like?
Yeah, what was it like? What was that environment like? What was it?
Oh, it was crazy. I mean, it was limousines, it was suites, it was, that was back in the day when we still were treated like royalty. Monday Night Football was still Monday Night Football. And it was for me, it was an opportunity to stand next to Frank Gifford, who is living, walking, breathing television history. Not to mention a Hall of Fame football player, but Frank was part of Monday Night Football from its second year on. And Al Michaels, a brilliant play-by-play announcer, and to spend a dozen years with those guys was, what I was most proud of was that I broke the mold in that I wasn't a quarterback or a running back. I wasn't O.J. Simpson or Joe Namath or Don Meredith or I was an offensive tackle that played on one of the less glamorous franchises in the National Football League, and somehow I made my way into that. But I was more proud of that than anything.
You mentioned Bob Hallway. Jim Bakken tells this story, and I don't know if you guys remember it.
It's true.
Practiced on Thanksgiving Day. Tell the story, Dan.
Well, we always practiced on Thanksgiving if we weren't playing a game. So we had practice earlier in the morning, and we finished up about noon. And before we finished, when practice was over, Bob Hallway had us all line up on the sidelines and run what we call gassers, which are sprints. And he ran us until, our tongues are hanging out and we could barely breathe. And here are the guys with their hands on their knees. He calls us all together and he goes, "Men, on behalf of the coaching staff, we want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving." It was really wonderful to hear while you're considering throwing up and all this and all that. And then God bless his soul, Jim Bakken. Remember, Hallway goes, "On behalf of the entire staff, we want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving." Bakken then looks up and goes, "Well, Coach, by a vote of 24 to 23, we voted to wish you a happy Thanksgiving." And let me tell you, if there had been a real vote, negative on that would...
All right, now, you were supposed to talk about the guy to your left. There is no guy to your left. Talk a little bit about Mr. Hanifan here.
Well, if I talk about Hanifan, does that mean that he's going to get to talk again?
We can
That
only
could be
hope.
fatal for all of us. If you have no idea how many times we've come close to having the entire evening hijacked by Jim here. It's 1973. We've had these 2 tough years with Bob Hallway. And in 1973, all of us, and I mean all of us, each in our own way, got this collective shot in the arm with Don Coryell coming in and taking over. We didn't have any idea who Don Coryell was either. This was prior to ESPN Sports Center, and he coached at San Diego State, which might as well have been on Mars as far as we were concerned. We just didn't know anything about it. But he comes in with this offensive coaching staff where Rod Dahauer was the quarterback coach and the receiver coach. Joe Gibbs is the running backs coach, and Jim Hanifan is the line coach. And everything changed. Everything changed. Jim, I can just talk about being the line coach. He made every one of us on the line, we had to learn every one of the pass routes being run by the wide receivers. You know, this was you can actually play the game only knowing your job and maybe marginally the job of the guy next to you. Jim made us learn every pass so that when Jim called the play in the huddle, we knew how to block accordingly, whether it was crossing patterns, whether it was a deeper pattern, whether it was a quick out. We were able to sit and draw all the plays. That was his attention to detail. None of us had ever been coached quite like that before, and it was a revelation. And when you didn't play for a dynasty where Chuck Noll or Tom Landry was there forever, I can just tell you how fortunate I was, because I played 13 years in the National Football League, and 10 of them were for Jim Hanifan. 6 of them as my line coach, and 4 of them as my head coach. And that just doesn't happen very often. And there's a reason why he presented me at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Other than that, I have no feelings for the man at all.
Same to you, big boy.
All right, we're gonna interrupt you for just a minute here because we're gonna take you back to November the 16th, 1975 at Busch Stadium. The Washington Redskins led the football Cardinals by 7 points. There were 25 seconds left in regulations. Cardinals had the ball 4th and goal from the 7-yard line. And listen to this.
Ike Harris checks back in as Kane comes out. It is 4th down, and the Cardinals' last chance to get on the board. To the right goes Mel Gray. To the left side comes Earl Thomas. At the Redskins 7, 4th down. Kane is tight on the right side. Hart goes back to throw and sets and fires up in. It is touchdown, Mel Gray. They rule the pass incomplete. They rule that he dropped the ball. He had the ball in the end zone, and now all sorts of cane is going to be raised.
Gray had the ball in the end zone, and now they break that huddle, and let's see what the signal is.
It's a touchdown! Touchdown! Touchdown, Cardinals. They're 1 point away from tying it up. 37 yards away from victory. The Cardinals mark it at the 27, a 37-yard try, almost in the middle of the field. Very slight angle right to left. Wehrli ready to hold. All set, snap back, the ball down. Bakken's kick is one up and good. The Cardinals win it on a 37-yard field goal by Jim Bakken.
That was the voice of Bob Starr, who I think was the best football radio play-by-play guy I've ever heard in my life. The other commentator was Dan Kelly, by the way, if you didn't recognize that voice. Now, every official on the field ruled it incomplete except one. The head linesman, Burl Toller. He ruled touchdown. So the officials got together, and there's a picture in Greg's book of the officials, and Dan Dierdorf and Jim Hart are breathing down their necks. They're breathing down their necks saying, it's got to be a touchdown. The rules were different then. Now, obviously, with replay, it would have been incomplete, but then you didn't have to have both feet down. All you had to do was have the football as you crossed the goal line. The review took several minutes, and they ruled it a touchdown in overtime. Jim Otis, Jim, I think you carried the ball every time, didn't you, as you come out the field, if I recall, just about on that overtime drive? Every
Yes, he
time.
did.
Jim
Yes, he
Otis
did.
carried the football, got into field goal position, and then Jim Bakken kicked the winning field goal. The game cost the Redskins a division title, and trust me, George Allen never, ever got over that.
Let me throw this on you. Years and years go by, and I wind up with my old friend Joe Gibbs coaching at the Washington Redskins. So now I'm downstairs in the locker room one day, right after I first got there, and I'm walking around, and all of a sudden I see all these pictures, and I'm going through and seeing the pictures. I'm seeing the great Sammy Baugh. I'm seeing this guy, that guy, some great players. And all of a sudden, here comes this picture. And the picture is the catch, or question mark catch. And it's Melvin in the end zone. And underneath that, he's got some stupid ass remark that I'm talking about. The idiot, George Allen, the cheating sorry son of a gun. Now, and George goes, "We got screwed." Well, I stood there and I started laughing and laughing. And here's Redskin players coming by and see me. "What's going on, Coach?" I said, look at this. This is how much it hurt and how beautiful that felt. Yeah.
Mel Gray is in the crowd. Mel, come on up here. Mel, I know I've asked you this before. Did you catch it? And your answer is always the same. They called it a touchdown.
It was a touchdown. 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 Touchdown.
Now, the guy sitting right behind you threw the football. Now, I think I understand. You got in the huddle. You weren't expecting to get that pass, right?
Not at all. I thought they were going to run the ball. They had Dan, Tom Banks, Bob Young. Hell, they were going to run the ball. I just knew it. When Jim Hart looked at me and said, "I'm coming to you, big guy." Boy, my heart sounded like a freight train. But then after all said and done, I received some mail from George Allen.
Yeah, after the first of the year, you received an envelope that said Washington Redskins on the envelope, right? And the mail said?
Call me a scumbag. He said that I should have got on my knees and tell the referees that I really didn't catch the ball. And I said,
Jimmy, talk about that play a little bit. Why did you go to Mel?
Why wouldn't you go to Mel?
Well, fourth and goal from the 7. You had options, right?
Yeah, and running the ball there was probably not an option. The other thing is Pat Fisher would be on Mel,
right?
And he's very fast, quick, not as fast as Mel. And I'm thinking that Mel's just going to juke him and come in, and he did. But he caught it up here like this and came down with 1 foot, and it was touchdown. Do you remember the name of the play? It was, no, it was X and Z delay. Yeah, I don't know, 272 X and Z delay, something like that. And I mean, you look inside and try to drive everybody away, and I mean, he was wide open. I mean, the ball hit him right in the chest. So, yeah.
But he didn't hold it very long, did he?
Long enough. Let me tell you one quick story about that. I finished my last season with the Redskins, and I thought I was going to be browbeaten with that particular play, but no. They wanted the Redskin players wanted to know why, or they were mad because I know it was the pass. No, you guys lay down on us in the final game against the Chicago Bears. Oh. We had to lose to them by 27 points or something like that, and I didn't play in the game. But they were concerned.
Upset about that.
If we beat the Bears, then the Redskins go to the playoff, and it went the other way.
Dan, what were you guys saying to the officials down there? Because the picture in the book, you're standing right behind this group of of officials, and only one guy called it a touchdown. What were you saying to him? You remember?
Well, we were lobbying hard that it was, you saw it, saw it, he had it, and he did have it. It's just all relative. How long did he have it?
The
NFL
line.
rules, the NFL rules at that time
were different.
Were such. Yeah. You didn't have to have your feet on the ground. You just had to have broken the plane of the end zone and be in possession of the football. That's all the rule was. And possession of the football is a subjective call by the official as to how long you actually have to possess it for it to be a legal catch. And given the rules the way they were at the time, that was a legitimate catch. If it wasn't, we'd be the first to say it and just cackle and laugh because. But I think it really was a legitimate catch.
No question about it. But I'll say this: there was another little bit of things going on. The umpire that day was a fellow by the name of Pat Harder, who was a football player for the Chicago Cardinals. Tough, hard-nosed fullback, but an idiot. Okay. And he became an umpire in the National Football League, okay? Unfortunately, whenever he would play, we would get him in a lot of our games through the years. And believe me, I would not say a word to any of the linemen. Guess who's the umpire today? Particularly Conrad. And right before the game, I say, Conrad, Harder's the umpire. Watch out. Because he was going to make sure to call, holding or whatever it be on us, and he's the guy waved it off. Harder than no good rotten sucker. Waved it off, no touchdown. And Burl told her, God bless him. Burl's over there in the line judge. And he came in from the sideline, if you remember that. He came in from the sideline, and he goes, hey, touchdown. Thank God. And, screw Pat Harder.
By the way, I want to change subjects for just a minute. Seeing we're celebrating the Big Red as a whole. Only a fool thinks that history starts when he got there. And I would be remiss, the offensive line that I played on gets so much attention and so much publicity because, there was some characters in that group with Conrad and Tommy and everything else. But I seeing we're celebrating the Big Red, I would be really remiss if I didn't mention this. When I got drafted by the Cardinals in 1971, I got drafted by a team that was pretty universally recognized as having the best offensive line in the game of football. And we didn't, when I say we, talking about my group, we didn't invent great offensive line play in St. Louis. That line of Ernie and Bob Reynolds and Irv Goody and Bob DeMarco and Kenny Gray, Pro Bowlers all, they set the standard, and we just picked it up and ran with it a little bit. And I know Irv's here and Bob's here, and Ernie's here. 3 members of that great line are here, and Kenny Gray and Bob Reynolds aren't, but you guys carried the banner into the stadium. We just kept it upright. That's it.
Talk a little bit about coaches. Talk a little bit about Coryell, Jim, and when you met him and what the reaction was, and when he basically, just said, hey, you're my quarterback.
Well, obviously I was ecstatic. I was getting ready to be bounced out of the league. Bob Holloway and I didn't see eye to eye, so I was starting to look at what other options I would have around the league. But then when Don came in and we had a meeting, and Jim Hanifan told me before I even met with him, Jim said, Don's going to tell you something that you're going to like. So, and what he said was that he couldn't figure out what the dilemma was. He said, you're my quarterback. I've watched film, and he said, you're my quarterback. So, I mean, talk about waltzing out of there on cloud 9. That was great, and we had a great relationship. He was way before his time as far as throwing the football, and I'm not kidding you when I said that Don would come up to Jim and I on the sideline and said, throw it, throw it. And then as I'm leaving, you're going to throw it, aren't you? And I go, yeah. And as long as we made the first down, I mean, he would forget about what he said.
Jackie, why don't you talk about Coryell a little bit? Mr. Smith?
Well, I don't know where to start on talking about Coach Coryell. I know when I first came there, I mean, when he first came there, I was really taken aback by him as far as his personality and really Jim and everybody, all the environment that was established at the time by all the coaches that were there, the message that we got from them, talking to them personally, one-on-one, was all of a sudden, I still remember when we were in the office there, and there were three coaches. I think Jim was in there, Coach Coryell was in there, I think Gibbs was in there. I don't know if any of the other guys were in there, but I just remember that I wasn't. But I remember that feeling of those guys talking to us and how they communicated with us, and obviously how they communicated with each other, but really the message that they gave to us all together. I mean, all of them were saying the same thing, and we all had a good feeling. I don't know if you guys picked up on that or not, but it was just such a different feeling for us than what we had been used to before, as far as the attitude of the coaches and what they were expecting out of us. And we really believed them. We really believed those guys. We said, this is going to be different, and I think we all took that into ourselves. And then when it manifested itself in coaches like Coach Coryell and like Jim Hanifan as far as the line, and Gibbs as far as the offense is concerned, and it was really a great time for all of us who played the game. It was a nice time to have been a player.
Roger, did anybody talk about defense in those days?
I feel the same way about Coryell as these other guys do, even though I played on defense. I think Coryell may have known the names of the defensive players, but that's about as far as it went, I think. He was strictly an offensive quarterback or coach, and so as a defensive player, though, you could just feel when he came to the team the enthusiasm that he had for the game, and it just changed the whole outlook of the whole team. And there wasn't a better time in my whole playing career than those in the mid-'70s when Coach Coryell was the coach. I had two great coaches, three great coaches, including Jim there at the end of my career. But Dan Devine at the University of Missouri was a great coach, and then Coryell with the Cardinals, and they couldn't have been two completely different people, two completely different ways of coaching. But, they got the most out of the players, and it was just a pleasure in the mid-'70s when Coryell was there, even though I did play defense.
My favorite coach was Bud Wilkinson. Because Bud used to come to me and ask for some input. So I told him one time, Bud, one of the problems with practice is that the starting offensive line, we just have to stand around too much at the beginning of practice. There's nothing going on that really involves us, and we might have to get involved in some busy work, but, it's kind of fatiguing, just having to stand around like that. He goes, that's a great point. He goes, here's what we're going to start doing. We're all going to go out to practice, and you guys wait 30 minutes, and then the five of you come out 30 minutes into practice. Well, I'll never forget this. Hanifan, look at him sitting over here. He's the offensive line coach. And the first time this happens, the whole team is out practicing. It's training camp. The five of us are up in the locker room. I mean, we are rolling around on the floor. Can you believe we have pulled this off? Seriously, you guys owe me your firstborn children that I got this done. So 30 minutes into practice, where the five of us just come sauntering down the steps at Lindenwood College. We come easing out there, going, all right, I guess it's okay. We'll go to work now. How many days did that last? 1. Because Crybaby over here, Crybaby goes to Bud and says, if you allow them to do that tomorrow, I'm quitting. Did you tell him you were going to quit? You know, we wouldn't have missed you. We'd have been, he talked to me about being player coach. You know, he had talked to me about that. You know, things could have really changed if you would have just left then.
There was a famous game called the Mud Bowl. Jackie Smith, would you talk a little bit about the Mud Bowl game?
Well, you know, when we played, there was a hell of a lot of mud bowls. I don't know which one you're talking about. Which one you're talking about?
Well, the one you stepped on a clarinet, you know, against the Giants.
I was in. I know, but what? I don't know what. When we
the 10-10 tie.
Oh my gosh, that was when we played the Giants. Yeah, when which everybody remembers that played in the thing, for God's sakes, because. But the game was. In fact, we were trying to, you know, keep winning, obviously a little bit, because we were in the run for the divisional championship there. If we could beat those guys, and we don't have one more game, wasn't that, Ernie? Remember that? And so we went in. We went in after the warm up and laying around, and I remember it just raining so hard. I mean, I said, this is unbelievable. I mean, it just rained. Of course, we were on the baseball field. It was flat as a pancake. Nothing ran off. And so, I bet you some people in here were at that game, and you can remember the game. But it was raining, and Wyatt Tiller was a quarterback. And so he started passing the ball down the field. Gifford, and you know, when they had the ball first, so they passed the ball real quick before everybody got just soaked. They scored a touchdown, and then we struggled. Both teams struggled through the rest of the game to try and score points. It ended up being a 10-10 tie, and it put us a half a game out of the championship that year. But the game was so bad, the water was so much water and mud that there was nothing of a semblance of a line there, and you couldn't tell anything. And all you did was get up and try to shake the water off of you and the mud off of you. And at the halftime, I don't know about the other guys, but I just got in the shower so I could get the mud off of my suit. I just did, because it was, you could run a 10-yard pattern, it felt like you'd run a mile. But we have, every now and then somebody will send photographs to us, everybody, and gets these things in the mail here, but I get a lot of these shots that come to me were of that particular game, because it was just so crazy that we could even try and play in something like that. So I think that was just the way it used to be. That's when football was, I guess you could say that was crazy, or football, whatever you want to say, but I don't know how anybody would play in it, let alone come out and watch it, for Christ's sakes. I couldn't figure that out. But anyway, that's just is that what you're talking about, Ron?
Jackie, let's go back to what's in the book. There are 3 great pictures of this game. The Cardinals had beaten the New York Giants 37-7 in New York. You needed to win this game. You'd beat the Cleveland Browns twice, but that morning here in St. Louis, 5 inches of rain. And they got to the stadium, and the water was just everywhere. And Charlie Johnson tells me he went to the officials and said, you cannot let piling on here, or like Dan said at one point, someone's going to suffocate and drown in the bottom of the pile. Literally, he said, you can't let it happen. Well, you guys went through the first half, and you're right, it was 7-7. Bakken was able to kick a field goal early. Right. And so that's how you got to a 10-7 position. But at halftime, he said that you guys walked through the showers. You didn't have a meeting, didn't talk about anything. You just continued to walk through the showers to try to get the mud off. And when you went back out, you were stunned to see that Mr. Bidwell had allowed the SIU marching band to perform. And I think it was you, Jackie, who said for us in the book that when I went out for just before the start of the second half, I saw these little white specks all over the field. They were their shoes. And you also said that you got in position at one point and stepped on something hard, and it was a clarinet. And again, you're going to win the game, 10-7, but he does drive the field, and he's able, the Cardinals had that knob with a pitching mound. That was the driest place that was left on this field, and Bakken told the coaches, don't worry, nobody can make a kick at this point. It's not going to happen. Well, they got down to that point in the field, and the Giants convinced the officials to put the ball on the mound as opposed to the hash mark. And he kicks the field goal, and it's a 10-10 tie, which in those days you didn't break. And despite having beaten the champions, the Cleveland Browns, twice, you don't go to the championship game. And remember, no playoffs. You just either go to the championship game or go home. And they would have been in the championship game had they won that game. They lose by a half game. That's the story.
One final thought for me, and maybe I'll put Jim Hart on the spot here. What was it like? I think you told me the story one time, so I'd like you to repeat it if you remember it. What was it like negotiating with Bill Bidwell on a contract?
Yeah, I've told it so many times. I'm sure it's gotten back to Billy, but he took over negotiations one year. I don't remember what year it was, in the 70s, whatever. And made an appointment to go see him. And I walked in, and he looked up, grunted or something, didn't stand up and welcome me, saying, "Hi, good to see you, thanks for coming." And and he just motions to a chair by his desk, like that, not have a seat or anything. And so then he reaches over, and he's got one of those little, 2-minute or 3-minute egg timer, whatever it is, hourglass like that, and he turns it over in front of me. And I'm just like, oh, no, what? And I watch it for a little bit, and he looks at it, and he goes, "Got 2 minutes left." I said, "You're serious?" And he says, "Yeah, has a heart attack. I'm serious, yeah." And so I do give him my spiel, what I think I deserve or whatever. And he looks up at me, and he said, "Is that it?" And I said, "Well, isn't there going to be any dialogue? I thought this was a negotiation." He goes, "I'll get back to you." I said, "What? This is negotiation. Let's talk." "No, I'll get back to you." And puts his head down, starts messing with papers and stuff. And so I got up and walked out. And I got what he wanted to give me, and there was no negotiation at all. That was Bill.
Hey, we want to thank you folks for coming. But Dan, you got to say something? Dan, were you going to add something?
Well, no, I just was going to say one. Bill Bidwell was a mercurial man. You never knew. You could walk down the hallway one day and he would pass you without speaking. You'd walk down the next day, he would stop you and tell you 3 or 4 jokes. Yeah, you just never knew what you were going to get. I can just tell you that when I had to retire, I couldn't get through a practice anymore, and I went home and told Debbie, I said, I'm going to walk in tomorrow and tell Mr. Bidwell that I'm done. And I did, and I walked into his office, which I hadn't been in his office, I don't think, for like 10 years. And I walked in there and I looked at him, I said, "Mr. Bidwell," and this is like in the middle of October. And I said, I'm going to have to, I had a contract for the next year. I said, I can't play for that. I'd like to finish out this year, but I couldn't play anymore. And I told him, I'm quitting. But I'd like to finish out the year. And he goes, wow, he was really surprised. And then I said something to him, and I said, well, Mr. Bidwell, you can release me. I've told you that I'm quitting. You'd be well within your rights to just release me, and you wouldn't have to pay me for the last half of this football season. And the man, he got tears in his eyes. He got tears in his eyes, and he got up from behind his desk and walked around and stuck out his hand, and he said, "It's just been a wonderful 13 years." And he walked out of the office so I wouldn't see him cry. So this is the same guy that could pull an egg timer on you or get tears in his eyes. And I just want to say one last thing. We are now a town without pro football. There's nothing on earth we could have done to keep the Rams. They wanted to go, and there was nothing we could do to keep them from going. All of us, we have to live with the fact that we're the ones that blew it with the football Cardinals. They wanted to stay, and our political leaders at the time, that one's on us. And we need to own that. If we'd have handled that better, the football Cardinals would still be here.
Here. You're exactly right, Dan.
So I just wanted to say that.
That's what I saw. When I saw Bill crying in Phoenix when it was announced, I knew exactly. He did not want to do what he did, but he
When
was...
Mayor Shamel wrote a $10 option on the New England Patriots on the back of a cocktail napkin.
It was over.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another little thing about Bidwell. The last game, and you remember this when Dan brought it up.
See your voice? Your voice goes into the end of this thing right here.
I know. I got you. Thank you very much. Anyway, oh God, I love him. We used to have some great meetings, offensive line meetings. I'll guarantee you that one. Now, the thing about it, what I was going to talk about with Bill, I remember the day. Okay, I don't know it, but I'm already locked out. Okay, they changed the locks on the doors at the stadium and all this and that. The offices, swear to God. So now he comes back in the locker room. All the other coaches have gone; they've left, and I just finished taking a shower and all this. I'm getting dressed, and he walks in, and he goes, "I got something I got to tell you." I said, "Sure. What do you got to say?" He goes, "I'm letting you go." I said, "Is that right?" He goes, "Yep, I'm letting you go." He sits down over the stool, and he starts crying. I'm standing there. I just got my ass fired, and he is crying. And I go over, I swear to God, must be something the Irish or whatever. I go over and I pat him on the back. I go, "It's going to be okay. It's going to be all right." I'm going, what an idiot. But it's a true story. It's a true story.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Maybe you just don't know that firing you made him that happy.
One time in the press box, it's first and goal from the 5, and Bill sat down next to me and told me a Pollock joke. We never knew whether to laugh or not, because you never knew, as Dan said, and the next time he wouldn't even recognize you were there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. We're going to honor these legends right now. Greg Marusek, President of the Hall of Fame. We're going to start down at this end, and of course, the first one goes to the coach, Jim Hanifan. And next, Jackie LaRue Smith.
Jim's looking off the tape. He's looking off the tape. He really struggled. That's great, Jim. Although he did really well tonight.
Next to him, of course, the Pro Football Hall of Famer, Roger Wehrli.
That's the beautiful part of it. You never know it. You never know it.
Here's Saluki James Warren Hart. And finally, probably the best offensive tackle in the history of the league, Dan Dierdorf, Double D. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a special night. The St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame appreciates you coming. We hope you enjoyed it. And put these memories in your bank, because you probably won't ever hear them again.